Welcome to the Hartwell Studio Works Sports Branding Podcast. I'm John Hartwell. I'm a sports brand designer in Atlanta, Georgia. It has been said that an athletics department serves its purpose on campus best when it is properly aligned with the goals and objectives of its institution. That alignment has implications for the branding and marketing of both the athletic program and the school. So I thought it might be interesting to talk to someone who has a lot of insight into that role of branding for both athletics and the school. And that someone is Sherrie Weldon, the Chief Marketing Officer at Lynn University in Boca Raton, Florida. Sherrie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, John. Good to be here.
So a little bit of background here. Sherrie and I met previously on a Bosca Presents webinar early last year, in which she and Lynn's athletic director, Devin Crosby, talked about how athletics branding has been important to Lynn University's bottom line. And so I thought it might be interesting to revisit that conversation and talk a little bit more about the institutional perspective on athletics and athletics branding. So Sherrie, in your role as a Chief Marketing Officer, let me start with a very broad question. Why is athletics important to Lynn University?
Well, it really comes back to our mission, right? That's our core reason for being as an institution. And the mission here is to provide an innovative, global and personalized education that helps our students realize their potential. And, we believe a competitive and fulfilling athletics program is a key part of achieving that mission. So, let me give you a more, practical example of what I mean by that. Our brand attributes for the Fighting Knights athletics brand are spirit, service, and strength. When you visit us here on campus, you're going to see those words all over the place. They're in our gym, in the stadium, in the locker rooms, on our team buses, right? And it's really a mantra that our athletics director and our coaches use very well as a guidepost for student behavior, both, on and off the field. So, what do we mean by spirit? Well, be loyal to your school and to your classmates, and be proud to wear your blue and white, and know that when you wear the logo, you're representing Lynn in our community. In terms of service, that's a key part of what we expect as a critical success factor for our student athletes. Be humble, serve others who need help, including your teammates, but community members too. And, I think we do a really nice job on this, and it creates a nice opportunity, for our students. We have a citizenship project every year, and our students have spent more than 50,000 hours in the last decade doing community service, out wearing their, Lynn warm-up gear and their Fighting Knights brands while they're cleaning up the beach, and, helping with Miracle League, feeding the homeless, painting, houses for Habitat for Humanity. So they're out there, they're visible, they're present, and they're doing good in the community. And then, finally, when we talk about strength, we're talking about striving to be excellent, not only in athletics competition, but also in the classroom. We had 81% of our student athletes last year earn a 3.0 GPA or higher. And they did that while they brought home 2 Sunshine State Conference titles and an NCAA individual national championship. So, our student athletes have a tremendous impact on our reputation. They're incredible brand ambassadors for Lynn University, and we're really proud to have them out there representing us.
That's a really good, I think, example of the importance of that institutional mission being represented in how the athletics department builds its own brand. And I think it's also a point, I think, here at the beginning of the conversation, not to get too brand and marketing nerdy, but who are we kidding? We're going to get brand and marketing nerdy. I think it's important to lay down a couple of definitions here real quick, just to make sure that we're all talking about the same concepts. And that is the difference between a brand and a brand identity. And I know that these get used interchangeably, but can you talk a little bit about the difference between what do we mean when we say brand, and what do we mean when we say brand identity?
So brand identity it is a very visual part of what we mean when we're talking about brand, right? It's the colors we wear. You know, Lynn's colors are blue and white. It's the logo. It's things like taglines, you know, spirit, service, strength. They're sort of you know, tangible attributes that you can, you know, use in your materials and put out there, you know, sort of physical representations of who you are and what your organization stands for. But it's only a small subset. A lot of people do confuse brand identity with overall brand, because brand is not a logo. Logo is not enough to create a brand, right? Brand is a much bigger thing. A brand is an experience. It is the, you know, sort of cumulative effect of your interactions with a, you know, with a product, with an organization, with another individual. That's what shapes your perception. It shapes your attitudes, you know, about that person or that product or that organization is the experience. And, you know, if it's a positive one, you know, it can be a great thing for the organization. If it's a negative one, then, you know, not so much. You make your choices based on, you know, that experience and those interactions. So brand is a much bigger concept than brand identity. But brand identity is, you know, sort of an easy, tangible thing to point to as an example of those interactions or experiences you might have with a brand.
Very good. So, and that's where the idea of having clearly defined vision, mission, values, those underpinning kind of foundational elements that then direct everything that comes after that. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. That's right.
Okay.
You know, the meaning behind the visual representation is as significant as anything, and you know, more so really, because it's the cornerstone of what you stand for.
Very good. Okay, so let's talk about then the role of athletics, as you've just described it, in the overall institutional marketing mix for Lynn University.
So, yeah, I'd say athletics really is an important cornerstone of our overall marketing mix. We have aligned here both our university and our athletic brand styles so that they look the same. They're really aligned. We're using the same sort of rules. The logos are very similar, and we do lead with the Lynn name, even in our athletics branding. And, you know, if you look at our mix, athletics is kind of ever present. We use it a lot to reinforce brand awareness, showcase our student outcomes, and certainly to demonstrate that we're worthy for investment. And, you know, here's a couple of good examples. Our campus visits for prospective students and their families and donors, you know, and community partners. Student athletes are front and center. They're among the student ambassadors who help our admission team give the campus tours. They also provide peer-to-peer responses to students that have questions. So they're a key part of that, you know, marketing. They're representing us, you know, an important part in the communications flow. Advertising, you know, our local radio ads we use to help build brand awareness and encourage people to come see us, because we know when they come to campus and get to know us, they love us. And athletics and home game schedules and getting out here to cheer on the Fighting Knights are key, you know, a part of that strategy. Environmental branding. So on campus here, all of our athletics facilities are branded. We have a prominent athletics walk of fame that highlights all of our national championships. And then, you know, off campus, like I mentioned before, our athletics buses are branded. So every time a team travels, they're out there building brand awareness for us. And then finally, I'd say we have a campus store here. Lynn has an iPad-powered curriculum, so we don't sell books in our bookstore. We've been a bookless campus store since 2014. So now it's a spirit store, and our athletics branded merchandise is a key part of that. So every person who comes on campus and purchases a Lynn Fighting Knights t-shirt or through our online store is helping us build brand awareness for our brand.
You know, it's interesting when you talk about advertising and encouraging folks to come to home games. I've heard it described as home games are an excellent open house opportunity for the institution. It's not just about the game, but it's an opportunity to introduce someone to the school who's come onto your campus for maybe the first time, and it's a chance to capture eyeballs and start to make some arguments. Is that an accurate way of describing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. It's also a risk, right? Because remember what I said about brand, right? It's not just logos, and it's not about just the uniforms that the teams are wearing. It's about the whole experience. So when you invite outsiders onto your campus to attend a game, the whole brand experience is the stadium kept well? Are the drinks cold? The sodas have good ice in them? Do you have students and staff and faculty members there, greeting and engaging, guests when they come on campus, and then what's the game experience? Good opportunity to give away promotional items to get people excited, to keep people engaging with the brand. So yes, good opportunity, absolutely. But make sure you do it right, because remember, it's an entire experience, not just whether the uniforms look good and the team is playing well, although those are nice parts of it. It's a whole overall sort of consumer experience that you're aiming to achieve when you invite folks on your campus for these games.
So here in Atlanta, Georgia State University recently used their athletics brand, their athletics logo, as the centerpiece of an institutional branding campaign at the Atlanta airport. It's going to get seen by millions of pairs of eyeballs over the next few months. And I think it's not uncommon to see a lot of schools using athletics as part of their institutional messaging. And so I'm wondering, what do you see as the pluses and minuses of that kind of athletics and institutional branding and marketing cross usage?
Well, if you have the budget, airport marketing campaigns are a great tactic, right? Here you are showcasing your college team at the gateway to your home territory. So that's a nice way to raise brand awareness. It's also good for the city itself to demonstrate that it has a higher education, presence with an athletics program that keeps its citizens actively, involved as a community. That's a win-win all the way around. More generally, though, if your question about institutional athletics sort of cross branding, I'd say that this always has some inherent risk, right? So, I worked at FSU during the Bobby Bowden football era in the late '90s, and at the time, the university brand was synonymous with the nation's number one football team, and unfortunately, the number one party school image that came along with it. So, maybe good for recruiting athletes and freshmen, but it also sort of risks undermining the work of a lot of accomplished scholars and could make it a lot more difficult to compete for, valuable research grants, for instance. So I'd say when you lead with athletics for an institutional brand campaign, that it really is important that you are clear about what that brand stands for. Your message should either, reinforce how your athletics support your organization's mission, demonstrate the benefits for the whole community, make sure there's some substance and meaning behind, the colors and the flash.
So a lot of what we've talked about here, I think it's fair to say, is very much, you're not doing marketing and branding because you like to look at pretty pictures. You want to do something, you want to accomplish something for the institution. And let's face it, the bottom line is a really big reason to do that. So how does an athletics brand help drive that bottom line on, let's say, institutional enrollment, fundraising, donations, sponsorship, those types of revenue generation activities?
Certainly a role in all of those areas, right? I mean, here at Lynn, I'd say our coaches are instrumental in helping us recruit talented new students who are going to be successful here. Our student athletes make up around 10% of our student body. So that recruiting effective athletes is a significant impact on our enrollment. A robust athletics program is a selling point for non-athletes too. When students and their family come here to campus, they want to know what student life is going to look like. And if they know there's going to be, a home game Friday night they can go to with their friends, it's a nice selling point. We did a lot of looking at this from a measurable point of view too. After we launched our brand new brand for the Fighting Knights, we saw measurable impact in a lot of areas. So, we launched the new logo, and that boosted campus store revenue 34%, because we were able to sell new branded products. Traffic to our Fighting Knights website increased 21%. Our average game attendance went up 50%. And we've had over $800,000 in donations to help student athletes achieve their, both their academic and athletic goals. So, a strong athletics brand truly is an asset for recruiting, fundraising, revenue generation opportunities. It really has a role to play in all of those areas.
The machine of marketing, if you will, has a lot of interlocking parts, and the easier those parts work together, the better. And as we're talking here, the athletics brand is certainly a part of that mix. How would you describe a well-articulated and consistently presented athletics brand? How does that make the job of institutional marketing easier?
Well, a lot of people have a natural affinity for sports and athletes, right? Shaped from their own experiences, right? They had a positive time with their summer little league, enjoyed pick up basketball games in their neighborhood as a kid, just enjoyed being a fan when their team went to the Super Bowl, right? So there's a lot of us, most of us have some experience with sports and athletes, and it shapes our impressions. And so student athletes, being a student athlete, having a student athletic program in itself carries with it a connotation and a brand for people. And I saw a really good example of this a few weeks ago. We had on our campus a VIP guest speaker, Roger Dow. He's the CEO and president of the U.S. Travel Association. I mean, this is a very connected man. He connected to the White House. He represents, the largest companies in the hospitality industry. Marriott and Hilton, and these are big employers for our potential employers, a big industry, for employment for our students. And when he was asked about what he looks for, when he hires, he says, one of the first things he looks for in a resume is whether that candidate was a student athlete. Because he knows in his experience that means that that's somebody who is, highly motivated and willing to work hard. It's somebody that can take feedback, and constructive and difficult feedback. And it's somebody that understands the value of a team. So people naturally want to like and support athletics, and by extension will like and support organizations that invest in and care about delivering an athletics program.
So for some small colleges, maybe they don't put the same emphasis or have the same perspective on athletics. What would you describe maybe as some of the opportunities that schools might miss out on if they don't develop that strong athletics brand as part of their marketing mix?
Well, look, let's go back to what our definition of brand was, right? We talked about it being more than uniform colors or a logo. And I think a lot of schools sort of stop there, right? They got a style guide for uniforms. They pick their colors. They've got their logos. They say, okay, we've got a brand. But if you understand and treat brand for what it is, which is an overall experience, remember that people form their opinions of an organization based on their cumulative interactions. If those interactions are positive, they're going to be much more inclined to invest either their time or their money in your organization. And so it does make, marketing a lot easier if from the outset they have, positive interactions. On the flip side, the risk to the organization is if they don't have positive interactions, you can spend a lot more money and time and effort trying to refurbish a tarnished, brand than you do if you just spend a little effort and attention in the first place in trying to get it right from the get-go.
Very good. I think it's interesting as I talk to athletic directors from around the country. I hear more of them talk about the importance of making sure that they're aligned with their institutional marketing and communications. And I think you've just shared a lot of really good points for from that side of campus why these things are important. So I thank you so much for taking the time to do that, and I hope that this information will be indeed useful for administrators and institutions around the country. So Sherrie, thank you so much for being on the program, and we will look forward to seeing you again soon.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. You can get in touch with our guest using the information listed here on the screen. You can also find it in the video description below and in the podcast show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're listening on a podcasting platform, please subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and write a review. Help other sports professionals find this podcast. Best of luck in your sports branding efforts, and we'll see you next time.